Welcome to the Revolutionary Communities podcast. If you're an impact-driven company ready to boost sales and loyalty by valuing people, then you're in the right place. My name is Maruxa Murphy, your guide to building communities that resonate with your passion, vision, and purpose. Every week, I bring you game-changing strategies and revolutionary industry leaders who are blazing the trail with innovative, inspiring, and profitable communities. Having personally cultivated over 200 profitable communities just like these that generate 6 to 8 figures in additional revenue, I'll give you insights into creating unique and heart-centered community experiences. Today's episode, well, it's something that might just change your life. So, settle in, enjoy, and let's dive into making our world a better place, one community at a time. Hello, how are you today? Maruxa Murphy here, your hostess with Revolutionary Communities podcast, and it is a pleasure to be here with you today. We are here for episode number 2. I love that. This is going to be a fun conversation because it is one actually that has led us to a place that most companies have no idea how to do. Most companies have no clue how to build a revolutionary community. And so today we're actually going to be diving into what it looks like to build a revolution, what it looks like to build a revolutionary community, and why does this matter? So actually, before we go into each of the phases, I do want to share why it matters and why me. Why am I talking about this? Well, I think the biggest reason that I want to talk about this is, and why it matters, is because I started to recognize over the last, I would say over the last 4 years, I started to realize the power of building community in a groundswell kind of way. Now, what the heck does that mean, Maruxa? Well, what I recognize is that oftentimes when we're building community, we have a grand vision for what community could be. But then we get scared, or we kind of like toe the line and we're like, oh, yeah, I can do this. And you hit create Facebook and create group on Facebook. And you now start a new Facebook group, or you can fill in the blank with whatever software you're finding that might suit your needs to build a community on. So you do that, and next thing you know, it feels hard, feels big. It feels like, oh my gosh, can I actually do this though? And then typically around month 6 to month 12, you give up. You give up because you put some energy and effort into it, and then you don't see the results. And in that, you feel like this community thing is a wasted energy, and you don't understand how it works for other people, but it definitely didn't work for you. Does that sound familiar? I can share that because about 98% of the people that come to me when they want me to review their current community, or they want to build a community from scratch, come to me because they've built if they're building a community from scratch, they built a community before and they hated it, and they know they want to build community again. They want to give it another shot, but they want to do it right this next time. And for those who have done it, they're just feeling frustrated that they spent all this energy and time, and they just don't know what else to do to really turn this ship around, right? So to me, it breaks my heart every single time I see it, because the truth is, just like with anything else, once we know that there's a strategy behind it, then we can create more intentional action. And the community that you're building on Facebook or on Mighty Networks or on Kajabi or wherever you want to build your community now has the opportunity to actually run. Okay. And not just run, but actually expand and turn into a movement. And if you're listening to this podcast called Revolutionary Communities, I have a feeling that you're not just in it to sell a widget. You're in it. You're here to create change, to create and amplify something that needs major transformation in your space. You're here to create a revolution. So let's dive into, what does that look like? What does a revolution actually look like if we were going to have one take place? So I break it down actually into four parts of a revolution. In part number one, it's what I call the rumble, right? The rumble. Now, the rumble is really the place where you, as a visionary change maker, an impact maker, impact leader, starts to just, you start to get clear on your core message. You get clear on your voice. You start testing the waters. Maybe you share it on Instagram or on TikTok or LinkedIn or Facebook, and you're testing it and you're getting a response. People are into it. They like what you're saying. It's almost like, you think about that rumble that happens at a sporting event, like when everyone's like, stomping their feet on the floor. It's like that sound, right? I love that moment. Creates that energy. There's a buzz that starts to form when we're in the rumble. When we're in the rumble, it really starts to shake the ground. And as you're in this space, the most important things to think about are not how many people you can serve yet, but how many people can I impact now, right? You want to be really, really present to how your message is really aligning into the people that you're serving. So in this rumble phase, your focus is your voice. Your focus is your getting clear on your vision. And your focus is getting clear on your values. That is critical. And in this place, we're really wanting to start testing our offers. We want to start testing and improving our offers, starting to optimize our first offers and seeing where people are wanting to come in and how people are wanting to jive with you, right? So once we are in that rumble phase, I get really excited, right? This is really where we want to reach our first 1,000 people, our first 1,000 raving fans. These are the people that are really there to expand alongside us and are there our early adopters, right? They're our first people. We want to love them well, my friends, love them well. And once we start getting that first 1,000, we move into the next phase. And this is what I call the first wave. The first wave. The first wave are the folks that really you're at that point where you have your first 1,000 customers, right? These are paid customers, people that have followed you and said, yeah, I'm interested. And they could have maybe paid you $1, right? But it doesn't matter. Where I'm looking here is for your first 1,000 that have said, yeah, I'm interested in you. I'm really interested in wanting to learn more with you. And we go from that first 1,000 into our first 10,000, right? First 10,000. So when we first go from the first 1,000 to 10,000, these are the people who are still, I would call them our early adopters as we're growing a revolution. And they're just the folks that are just starting to really help you gain traction and garner your voice and really, really start to deepen your message and that much further. And the most important things to do here is to continue to build your audience. We talked a little bit about audience versus community in episode 1, remember? So you want to go back if you haven't listened to episode 1, please listen to that where we talk about audience versus community. And in that, we want to focus in this first wave around our audience, really designing and growing with our audience and creating then that first community, that first beautiful community where people are now able to start interacting, not just by listening to you, but interacting with one another because they're all interested in the same topic that you talk about, right? This is the first wave. So really in this phase, we're really looking at what I call tilling the soil, right? It's like you're planting the seeds with your first 1,000 to ultimately your first 10,000 people. And we're tilling that beautiful soil. We're helping grow them, turn them into your first raving fans. That's so juicy. this is really where the hard work comes in. I have to say, a lot of communities, they think, okay, I'll get my first, 1,000, but I want to create a revolution. And to me, by the way, let me kind of, um, give you a little bit of a heads up. When I think of revolution, I think of 100,000 or more people that are following alongside in your community to really begin to shift the industry, and your industry specifically, right? So in this first wave, you're wanting to make sure that you're tilling the soil. You're really giving you and your team are giving your customers all you've got, with such love and care. You're creating quality experiences for these people, and with them, you're hearing their feedback. You're inviting them to try out new products before it goes out into the market in a larger way. You're really, really taking good care of these folks. And we find in tilling the soil, it's a long-term game here, right? To get to your first 10,000 is going to be harder than it's going to be to get to your first 100,000. From your 10,000 to 100,000, it's going to be way easier than being in this tilling the soil phase. In this phase, this is where a lot of us will falter. We'll fumble and kind of, jump ship, because we're not ready to fully create the change that we keep saying we want to create, right? We want to talk the talk, but not walk the walk. Yikes. I know. I love you. And I'm telling you that because this is my invitation for us to start moving in the direction of getting out of this first wave space and moving into the groundswell. But your goal here in the first wave is to build those relationships, start really designing and growing your audience, right? Starting creating partnerships with people who already have your audience, really aligning in to, again, focusing on your voice, optimizing your voice. When you get to your first 10,000 people in your community, then you really reach this level called groundswell. This is really where you start to see companies go from being, kind of like subculture in their space to now being the culture, right? They're starting to be part of the cultural conversation. They're starting to really make shifts in how a company begins to share information and become more of a thought leader in their space. Right? We want to move you into that space of thought leadership and start creating more of this groundswell experience where people start coming to you because you are the person to talk about this. Okay. And in this groundswell space, you still want to obviously continue to focus on audience building. You want to make sure you're really leaning into public relations, PR, right? You also want to be focusing here on deepening your, potentially getting into more spaces online. You want to definitely be speaking on more stages, right? And potentially writing your book at this point. So when you're in that groundswell, it allows you're really leveraging your first, the fact that you already have 10,000 people already in your community. And you're at the point now where you're ready to really expand it and be that thought leader in that space. And as it relates to community, this is a place where you're now going to be leveraging and partnering with whom I call your evangelists, right? Or your raving fans, if you want to call them that. These are the people that are ready to go on your behalf and share it with the world like crazy, right? So that's where in the groundswell, we really have massive growth, and we go from our first 10,000 and into and up to around 100,000 people. Right? By then, when you have 100,000 people in your community, you have a lot of say in your space, right? You get more opportunities, more deals want to come your way. This is where Netflix shows start to show up. This is where books and traditional publishing wants to show up. This is the place where we want to really begin to expand, even into. I would love to see you expanding here. And then finally, we have what we call our tectonic shift. And this is really where you're now reaching. These are where the creme de la creme of movement makers and revolutionaries come out of. This is where you're changing the landscape. When you speak, mountains move, right? When you speak, the landscape literally starts to shift in the direction that you're wanting it to go. I see women like Brene Brown, Oprah Winfrey in this particular category. Barack Obama is in this particular category, right? These are people who are shifting conversation. There's so many beautiful humans here. And if you want to be a world changer and this is where you want to go and create a revolution, then let's just get clear on what it takes to get there, right? We need to be building up to get to this point where we're now starting to shift the landscape. So as we are thinking about revolutionary communities, I want to invite you right now, as you're looking at these 4 core phases of creating a revolutionary community, be honest with yourself. Where are you today? What is it that you're needing right now that is going to be supporting you to be able to move forward? And if you're not sure, or when you recognize what phase you're in, you're kind of like, oh, interesting, right? Recognize I'm not judging you. And so I invite you not to judge yourself. Just recognize that this is an opportunity for you to then understand what it looks like to be able to go from the rumble to the first wave, to the groundswell, and then finally into the tectonic shift, if that is where you want to go. Now, one thing I do want to recognize as well is that it is okay to not want to create tectonic shifts. It's okay not to, right? And why I'm saying that is because sometimes people think, oh, if I can't get to the finish line, i.e. the tectonic shift, then I'm not good enough, or then I'm not worthy of understanding this. No, the reason I bring these phases of revolution is for you to get so clear about where you are and where you want to go, right? Do you want to be in the first wave? Do you want to have 10,000 community members? Does that feel good to you? Is that where you're choosing to play, and where you want to you recognize that will be fulfilling and meeting in the way in which you're shifting culture, right? Or are you in that space where you want to be seen as a thought leader? You don't necessarily have to be the thought leader in your space, but you want to be one of the voices in your space. Well, then maybe a groundswell is really what you're wanting to design. Now, if you're wanting to be somebody that's literally supporting millions of lives, then tectonic shift is where you're wanting to go. And to recognize it and to know that there are phases in which to get there. And that's going to be beautiful when you do. And it's okay if you're not there yet. So as we're going to be diving further into revolutionary communities through this podcast, give yourself permission to lay in for yourself where you're at right now. And then come on over into our community. We actually have a community that's forming right now. And the link, I'll have the link below here. But in this community, let us know, where are you right now? One of the things I want to do with our podcast here is actually build community in alignment with the podcast, so that you can get feedback from me, you can get feedback from our guests, and you can continue to be and grow deeper in your understanding of creating your own revolutionary community for your company. So this is Maruxa Murphy. I hope this was supportive for you today. I can't wait to hear where you're at and where you want to go. Share it with us in our community. The link is below. I'll see you in the next podcast episode. And that wraps up another enlightening episode of the Revolutionary Communities podcast. Remember, it's not just about building communities. It's about sparking movements and echoing change across the globe. I'm Maruxa Murphy, reminding you that every voice matters, every story is significant, and your vision can truly make the world a better place. If today's insights resonated with you, consider taking a bold step and implementing one idea into your community. Let us know about it by going to revolutionary-communities.com. revolutionarycommunities.com/podcast. And there you'll be able to let us know what is sparking for you by joining our own Revolutionary Communities community. Together, we are stronger, and with unity, we can be the revolution. Until next time, keep leading with your heart, stay inspired, and never underestimate the power of genuine connection.